And I think we're live. Yeah, just wait for people to see some sign
Let's
of
hope
life
someone
there.
comes. Yeah. Oh, hang on. I didn't have the
Okay,
chat up.
Hey, 51
is that Wasim
Are
is
you
here?
able to see how many people are in?
No, but I can see Wasim has said, hi, everyone. Wasim, can you see us? Okay. Scott. Nobody
Yeah,
can
that's
see
the
us.
first thing. Let's see if people can actually see us and hear us.
Can anyone see us
Because
and hear us? Okay, lots of highs.
Mary, Paolo, can you actually see and hear us last week, same time?
Ooh, Eric says, I can see you both.
Okay, great. Eric says, I can see you both.
Hooray! Woohoo!
Last week, I don't know if you guys saw in the comment box, Martine and I chatted away for 15 minutes or so.
I know, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Before we realized that nobody was actually hearing or seeing us. That was fun.
Oh, and for the record, Frank, we were really good, you know.
Felt good. I think we're going to have to repeat the same stuff, the same jokes.
Yeah. Oh dear, I didn't make a note of those. Oops. Okay, yeah.
Guys, very, very quickly, tell us where you're signing in from, what part of the world. That's always fun to see where you are. Tell us your time as well. What time is it where you are?
Where are you and what's the time? Oh, that's someone from Alaska.
I see Rich. Repeat the same nose rubbing. That happens Rich is saying, repeat the same nose rubbing. That's one of my nervous gestures is the nose rubbing.
Like that.
Okay, so I'm more in the time zones this time than the places. Let's see, 2 p.m., 11 a.m., somebody in Los Angeles. 8 o'clock for someone in Greece.
Interesting.
All right, so we've got
Wasim's up
a
late.
couple of time zones. 11 p.m. He's in Pakistan at the moment.
Yep.
Unless we have somebody joining us from, let's say, Australia or Japan, which we have had, then I think Wasim might be the night owl, like the latest late among us. But I think Wasim waits for the hour, he's like, hello, hi, and he's the first one to pop in a comment. I think that's his modus operandi. That's great.
It's WorkFlowy o'clock here in San Diego. Thank you for that, Billy. WorkFlowy o'clock. Love that.
Well, actually, the time for these webinars at 11 Pacific Standard Time, which is basically, I think, San Diego, California. So easy for them. Whatever time I pop in, it's going to be their time. So people living in California and in that time zone, Pacific, you don't have to be figuring out. It's always the exact time that I pop in.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi guys. You can see myself. You see Martine. We had Martine on last week. She's been kind enough to come back again after the technical difficulties last week. And so Martine and I are going to be, it's going to basically be a productivity 101 chat, the heart of productivity. And what I mean by that is we're looking at prioritization techniques. I think there's so many different priority hacks and methods that you can, or productivity that we're going to look at and chat about today. And that's why this is Productivity 101. Okay, Louisa says there's some echo on audio. I've noticed that on both of our sides, but let's just do this one. Louisa, please, if we disappear, guys, please tell us in the chat box. All right. Okie dokie. So we're looking at, I'm going to put in a quick poll to kick things off here. A couple of prioritization methods that off the top of my head might be the 1-3-5 method or the Eisenhower matrix, different ways to prioritize the bunches of things that you have on your to-do lists. I'm going to load a quick poll and let me start the poll.
This is assuming people have to-do lists, of course. I hope they do.
That what prioritization method do you predominantly use? Eat that frog. You may or may not heard of these. but whichever ones you do use, please check on those. I think you can only choose one. Eat That Frog, the Eisenhower Matrix, 135 method, GTD contexts, schedule as much as possible, focus on the most pressing urgent tasks, which I think is leading right now. Don't break the chain, 0% so far. I don't need to prioritize. I just go on autopilot. I have a routine. Other is at 8%. We're going to make that public now so you guys can see that. But it looks so far that focus on the most pressing or urgent tasks is the clear winner at 57%.
Right.
So, Martine, do you think that's a prioritization method, like focusing on the most urgent stuff?
That sounds a bit like firefighting to me, actually. And I think the people who are focusing on the most urgent stuff all the time are probably in the right place, because we'll have some hacks
exactly.
and tricks to help with
I think
that.
People are in the right place.
Yeah, definitely.
At least if you don't, at least if you guys don't absorb all of it right now, because I think people have had enough time, and you're going to see that visible, all the percentages and stuff. Okay. Do you see that, Martine? The results of the poll?
I don't get to see those, I don't think. So, no. So you can let me know. Oh, wait, no. I know I toggled some tabs. Yes, I know what I'm doing now. Focus on those pressing urgent tasks, 52%. I'm a webinar newbie, excuse me.
Eat That Frog. That's like probably your favorite one, Martine.
And
that gets
love
0%.
it.
0%.
Well, actually, I think what it might be is people perhaps not knowing Eat That Frog, because focusing on the most pressing / urgent tasks in some way is an incarnation of Eat That Frog. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly. If you see in parentheses, it says MIP, tears, most important task. So probably a lot of you guys are focusing on the most important ones. In contrast to the winner here, which is focus on the most urgent. So maybe urgent is not always the most important, and we're going to chat about that.
Definitely.
Okay, so that's interesting. I think, like you said, Martine, people are in the right place, and even if people don't absorb, the attendees don't absorb everything we're going to chat about, this is to whetten your appetite and get you thinking along and investigating after this some of these techniques. And of course, we've got some giveaways, some resources for you. I've got a great little WorkFlowy list prepared with some mini templates of all these little priority productivity hacks that we're looking at today. Okay, so that was very revealing. I think number 2, we have GTD context, 27%. So that's a big one. Behind, I think, so besides people not really, in general, at least the people here, not really prioritizing the way I see it, I might be wrong. The biggest one would be GTD context, and then in second place is other. My third place is other, which is, okay, we'll have to ask people what other is. I'm just going back to the chat box here. People, tell us what other methods we didn't pop in there that you use, that were not present in the little poll in the survey. Tell us what you use. Anything that wasn't mentioned there. Louisa says at work she doesn't have an agenda. Her chief, her boss, decides what she's, and takes all of the hard work out of prioritizing.
Wasim's put master list, master/daily list. I'm sure that's from Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I could be wrong.
Sounds like it might be.
Yeah, so having your master list of tasks. Yeah.
I think just about the only thing I remember from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that book, was the Eisenhower Matrix, which is ingrained in my mind.
Yes, yes.
So Mark is saying A1, A5, B1, B5, C1, C5. That looks like a chess game.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
And Bob Elliott says, Frank's Kanban process.
Hey, we like him.
Martine, have you heard of TSW, the secret weapon?
TSW? No, but I do love an acronym.
Was based off of, I think that the secret weapon is what it's called, was based off GTD,
right.
if I'm not mistaken. But it has its own incarnation in apps like Evernote. It could also probably have its own incarnation in WorkFlowy.
Excellent.
Okay, so Bob says it's a Franklin planner. Okay, so the A1, B5, all of that.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Yeah, which is
good.
I think it's.
Oh, I think we might have lost Frank, folks. Can you just see me and not Frank? Oh, I think he's coming back.
I think we're back. Good.
We lost you. We lost you. I had a slight panic then. I was thinking, I don't have the list.
Did we lose you?
Yeah, I think I was still there.
Anyway,
let's move on. Yeah.
So
right.
Good.
Frank's back. Yay.
All right. So let's talk about the Eisenhower matrix.
Okay.
I think that's a popular one. A lot of people know it.
Yes.
Am I okay? Do you hear me? Do you see me?
Thanks, Victor. I can see you both.
Okay, great. So here's a little quote. What is the Eisenhower matrix? Let me actually bring up, I'm going to do a little bit of screen share right now. Let me just get this going. View presentation. Okay, I'm just about to share my screen. I decided to switch things up here.
Okay.
Let me share I'm going to share my screen now. Application window. With me, Martine?
I'm here.
Okay,
right.
Excellent.
So this is your Eisenhower matrix.
Yeah, I pulled up off a couple of images off the internet. I think this is familiar to a bunch of people. Might be familiar with this, the Eisenhower matrix. But let me read off a quote, and you're actually going to see me reading off my my WorkFlowy list. So here's a quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower, I think the 34th president of the US. What is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important, is a phrase which is often attributed to the late US President Dwight D. Eisenhower. This matrix was later made popular by Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and dealt with in depth. Let me hop on back to those graphics. Okay. You see those?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. It's a matrix where you have important and not important down the left-hand side, and on top you have urgent and not urgent. I'm not going to hash everything out. I've got a resources list that I'm going to share with everybody a little later, and it's got the actual whys and the reasons why behind this actual matrix here. And there's a lot of different interpretations to this, but what to point out, I think the most useful thing that I've learned from all of this is that it's not a linear 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of thing. So like number 1 is the most important thing in life. Number 2, I've got to get that done, second and third and fourth. It's not necessarily a linear thing. What I picked up out of all of this is that the second quadrant where it says not urgent and important, and I'm going to give you an example. That is the most important. So you should try to maximize. Let me flip through and give you a different visual. So you highlights it there. Exercise, vocation, planning. Actually, the quadrant 2, the whole philosophy behind this is that we're going to try and maximize that category of tasks. So behind in that the more we focus on these, the less we have to put out fires, the more we sharpen our saw. And in that category, we have stuff like enriching your life with educating yourself, reading up, doing exercise, taking care of your health, things that are by no means urgent. So if I decide to do yoga today and I skip it, it's not urgent. I mean, I can do yoga tomorrow. I'm not going to be huffing and puffing as I climb up a flight of stairs because I haven't done exercise today. So it's not urgent, but it is important. And the interesting thing is, it's this category of tasks, the important yet not urgent, that we usually procrastinate on a lot. Like most of the things that we procrastinate on and we know we should do, but it's not that important, we're going to leave it for tomorrow, fall into this category. So it could be exercise, planning, etc. I've actually got a link in the resources list to an Evernote document, which will have these exact images that I pulled off the internet. Take a look at this. It says good time management, and it is actually exaggerated the top right quadrant, the important and not urgent. And I think that's the most important thing here. You got anything to add to that, Martine?
No, I think it's a really good system, actually. At the moment, we're looking at our Slack page, just so you know. I think it's a great system. I think I kind of combine it a little bit with most important tasks. And I think with a lot of the methods we're using and looking at today, you can combine them and create something that meets your own individual needs. That's all I'd add.
Yeah, you don't have to go on that interpretation. There's different ways to interpret it. Let's take a look at now. I think, Martine, you're going to, I've got a list set up in WorkFlowy. You're going to try to prioritize, try and read my mind and guess what my priorities are in the Eisenhower matrix. So Martine's going to share her screen.
Yep, doing that now. Sharing
go ahead, Martine.
Okay, can you see my screen? Do I need to just make it a bit bigger?
Yes.
Okay.
We're good. We're good to go, I think.
All right.
So you've got a list of my priorities, like a list of my stuff to do. And let's start with quadrant 2. Do you know how to move stuff down with the keyboard shortcut as opposed to...
No, I'd love you to tell me. I'd love you to tell me.
You're on a Mac, right?
Yes, I am, yeah.
I think you've got Alt, Shift, and the down arrow. And you can pop your cursor in one of those tasks.
Okay, so I'm just looking at... I'm going to use that one. Alt, Shift, and down. Alt, Shift, and... No, that's not working, so I'm going to go for good old-fashioned copy and paste. There we go. So remind me what number 2 is. Number 2 is not urgent, but important. That's right, isn't it?
Exactly. It's those things that you enrich your life with.
Yeah.
The more you do this, you're going to cut out, you're not going to be putting out fires because you're doing stuff in advance, you're organizing and prioritizing. Okay, so I already put research on how to make my diet more alkaline, because I'm kind of working on the basis that if you want to make your diet more alkaline, maybe you've got an illness or something like that, or you're not feeling as healthy as you might like. So it's important, but it's probably not terribly urgent. That's my first decision. Yeah. And I'm also going to put harmonica jamming in there as well, because even though it's not urgent, if you want to really be good at the harmonica, you need to be practicing every day. What else? Keep going. Game of Tetris. I'm going to maybe put that towards the bottom. Remind me what number 3 is. Number 3 is... That's urgent, but not important.
Definitely not urgent. So I'm actually going to check that in number 4, I think. Depends on how you feel about Tetris, I suppose.
Martine, I'm seriously going to need to teach you some keyboard shortcuts there.
You are. I'm such a disappointment. Look, supermarket is going to be urgent and important, assuming you've run out of food.
Yes, I'm hungry.
And I'm going to do the same with water delivery, because a boy's got a drink. Study with Emma for Portuguese test tomorrow. That is also urgent because there's a deadline. Watch latest episode of Survivor. Well, frankly, I don't think it's overly good, so I'm going to stick that down. And prioritize.
It's important to me, but we'll put it number 4. That's a good place to put it.
Create prioritization templates for webinar. Well, as we're doing the webinar now, that's probably up there too. Which ones haven't I done? That's it, isn't it?
Let's see.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So actually, I've got nothing in number 3. That's interesting. Are you going to mark my work?
Let me tell you my perspective on number 3. Stuff that is urgent but not important. It seems to be something you have to do now, but you don't really need to do it. Like, I just had an email that come in. I feel like I need to respond to it, but you don't have to respond to it. I don't know if I've put anything in that category.
Interesting.
I don't know if I have. Let me see. It might be study for the Portuguese test tomorrow. I don't know. I don't think I actually have any of those. So you did pretty well.
Hey, thanks.
You categorized my stuff pretty well.
Great.
But I am going to have to teach you some keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, noted. I feel like I've been told off by the WorkFlowy guru. That's excellent. Shall I unshare my screen now?
Yes, let's take a look at some people who've been popping in comments there. Armando says, so 1 being the most important and 4 the least? Not necessarily. Yes, sort of. But I would say that if you're proactive and you're into organizing your life and investing, like another good example is investing your time in a project that doesn't bring income right now, but it might bring in a source of income like 3, 4, 5 months down the line, even a year down the line, would be in quadrant 2. Mm-hmm. And I tend to prioritize as many items as possible and make those some of the most important things during my day, and then get the other stuff done around that. So I have energy for those things. But so it's not necessarily, like I said, a linear 1, 2, 3, 4. Otherwise, see, there's a philosophy behind it. Otherwise, we wouldn't really need the quadrants. But remember, a whole book was written about this. Not only the philosophy of the quadrant, but there was a whole book written about this and a lot of people tend to now distinguish between, and how would you see this, Martine? Do you distinguish between productivity and efficiency, perhaps?
Yes, I do you know, interestingly, I found that process of dealing with so many tasks quite stressful, and I think my efficiency would have been impacted quite dramatically by the fact that I found that quite stressful. I'm very much the kind of person who uses the most important tasks eat that frog type approach, so I don't have to handle the prioritization of so many tasks at once. So I kind of combine that with the GTD principle of having a trusted place to put all your to-do items. So I have my list for that. And then every day I'll do my most important tasks, up to 3 of them, I would say, whack them on my whiteboard, cross them off when I'm done. So yeah. That's kind of more how I would approach it. I found that that wasn't quite comfortable for me. Do you see what I mean?
Is that the whiteboard you're talking about behind you?
No, the whiteboard.
Or is that just for scheduling?
The whiteboard behind me, ducks out of the way, and that's actually my content calendar I have a blog and a podcast and also an email newsletter. So what I do is I just use that annual plan for accountability purposes, and I map out when I'm blogging, podcasting, and sending a newsletter out, and I just tick it off. I would say 95% digital, but I do like the action of ticking something off or crossing it off when I've done it. Do you know what I mean? Especially
don't break the chain, which we're going to talk about.
Yes.
I've done that in the past too. There's a couple of comments that came in, which I think are spot on about quadrant 3. Jay has said 3 is generally instigated by someone else. For example, a marketing call, ignore it. So it seems to be urgent, but you could actually ignore it, or you could delegate it, which I think he also said 3 is the other person's important, but not yours. And that's why people also tend to see this as the quadrant where you can delegate as much of that as possible. But I'm in the situation where I don't get to delegate much at all, except to my daughter. I don't have people to delegate stuff to.
No, me neither.
And Xenia says, one of the graphics portrayed quadrant 3 beautifully, delegate. So I think that's with people on here who are using GTD and understand the Eisenhower matrix and all of that. Okay, so we're going to go onto a screen share, and I'm going to prioritize a set of tasks according to the 1-3-5 method. I'm going to prioritize a set of Martine's tasks. Could you quickly tell us what the 1-3-5 method is? Martine? You heard of it?
You're testing me now, Frank, because actually until we spoke about it, I didn't know what the 1-3-5 method was. So if I remember it correctly, off the top of my head, so you do 1 big thing, 3 medium-sized things, and 5 little things. Is that right?
Exactly.
Hey.
Yeah. So, sorry for putting you on the spot.
Just a bit.
So we're going to go into screen share right now. And let me just be careful to see I'm not sharing anything on my computer that people shouldn't see. Okay.
Like your bank account details.
Okay, let's go into a screen share of my application window. And okay, let's jump along to here, the 1-3-5 method. Let me just zoom in a tad bit. Okay, so we see Martine's inbox. We got a bunch of tasks there. Let me guess and see which of those is the biggest thing, the medium, the 3 medium things, and the 5 little things. And the way the keyboard shortcuts work, instead of, by the way, Martine, do you see my screen share?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Can everyone else see this okay?
Hi, Martine, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Let me just go back to the...
Okay, it looks like people can see this.
Yes, you do see us? Oh, sorry, you do see my screen? Martin, Mary, Wasim, because I cannot hear Martine for some reason now.
Oh,
okay, cool. Let's jump back to WorkFlowy.
Okay.
But I don't have Martine's input. So what I'm going to do is do this without her guidance, and I'm going to check with her after this. So I'm going to hit Alt, Shift, and the down arrow. Buy Frank's 24th birthday present. It's going to be the one big thing I think that she needs to do today. Walk the dog. Medium thing. FaceTime Frank about writing a guest blog post for me. Let's put that at number 5. Sorry, 5 things in that category. Finish knitting Penny's dog jumper. I'm going to put that, all the doggy things I'm going to put with 3 medium things and see if I'm happy with that. I might shuffle things around. Finish online course slides. Oops, I think we just bumped myself out of one big thing. Let's put that into 3 medium things. Draft the guest blog post pitch. We have 2 big things. Let's put that into 3 medium things and bump myself down to 5 little things. Frank's birthday present. Go to the gym. Put that at 3 medium things because that's by no means a little thing. That might be the big thing. Food shopping. Let's go down to number 5. And put some laundry in down to number 5. I've got too many in number 3. Which one are we going to bump out of number 3? Go to the gym. Finish knitting Penny's dog jumper. Let's do that. So that's my final answer for what I think are Martine's 1 big thing, 3 medium things, and 5 little things. I think Martine is with us looking at that. And I'm going to jump back onto the Webinar Jam platform and end the screen. Hi, Martine. Did you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can't see your face, though. You need to switch your webcam on.
Okay, let's turn it off, turn it back on.
Yes, I can see you. Can you hear me all right?
Okay, so did you hear me walking through your list of to-dos?
I did, and I rather liked it.
When we were... So I don't know why we couldn't interact during that for some reason. But
hopefully people could see my face.
Did I do okay?
You did really well. What I really liked was that when you chose your birthday present as the most important thing, how it slowly went down the list of priorities. Susan has asked a question, actually. She said, so is the big thing the most important thing, the longest task, or the most daunting? A couple of people, Vaughan as well, is asking what the big thing is. So do you want to answer that, Frank, because you know a bit more about this method than me?
I think let's skip right over those questions. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
That specific one, because I'm answering that one, because I think a lot of the productivity methods the prioritization methods we're gonna look at, sort of you can have a hybrid of them. And what I'm really interested in talking about is the one called Eat That Frog. And Eat That Frog is the biggest, the most important thing. So I think only you can answer what is the biggest and most important thing. And I think the simple answer, Susan, would be the thing that takes the longest or the most daunting. Let's discuss that. I think we'll go. Carlos says, Frank, you got to fill your mug again. I remember, there's this funny episode of Magnum PI with Tom Selleck years ago when I was like 8 years old. And I don't know if it was the butler or what his accomplice's name was, like the old guy who sipped his tea. And he said to him, but like, why do you keep sipping? There's no tea in your cup. I think people might have remembered that Magnum PI. Anyway, Carlos is telling me I got to fill my mug again. Okay, so the next thing up, let me just take a look. We're going to be talking, zoom out here. I'm looking at my WorkFlowy list. So we've got Eat That Frog. Do you want to go at this? Do you want to tell us what Eat That Frog is about? Or wait, let me just quickly give a quote. This whole thing called, you want to do that?
Do you want me to do the Mark Twain? Shall I do the Mark Twain quote?
Yes, please.
So, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best you do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. And that's Mark Twain. I love that quote. I'm a big fan of Eat That Frog. This is something I like a lot. And I suspect, I wonder if they could let us know in the chat, is it that, bearing in mind the poll results, are people not familiar with Eat That Frog? Have they not heard of it? I wonder. Let's keep an eye on the chat for that.
Okay. Interesting thing is, I think a couple of quotes that came from Mark Twain. And by the way, this became a book. So there's a book basically called Eat That Frog, ! Based on this quote of Mark Twain's. And I think Mark Twain also, in some other quotes, said the most unpleasant task. So I'm in 2 frames of mind about it, but I've chosen it to be the most important thing that I'm excited to do, or it might change on any given day, the thing that is of primordial importance. It could be the other end of the spectrum could be that it's the most unpleasant one. You don't want to do it because once you've done it, another quote by Mark Twain says that once you've eaten that frog, nothing in your day seems bad after that, after you've actually eaten that frog. Everything else is like downhill from there. It's real easy. It's smooth sailing.
Can I just chip in there, Frank, actually, because Steve's made a really good comment. He said that psychologists say you have more willpower or most willpower in the morning. And so with that in mind, actually, the most unpleasant thing, the thing that's going to require the most willpower is that, for me, that's definitely the frog that needs to be eaten. Sounds terrible.
And the psychological part of that might come in, they say once you've gotten a few tasks done, like everything's easy from there on out, and you've got some like check, I've done these, and everything else is going to be easy from here on out. I've accomplished something. I've accomplished the most difficult, daunting thing. So yeah, that's Eat the Frog. I've got some more notes in that list that I read out of, and I'm going to share that resource list with you guys. And somebody in chat box said, keep on point. Thank you. I was talking about the Tom Selleck thing, and based on one comment, so I'm going to try and keep on point here. Okay, so that's Eat That Frog. So Martine, by the way, what is your like primary modus operandi? What is it that you use to prioritize stuff predominantly yourself?
So I would say 3 most important tasks. Where I've got a really horrible job to do, I would kind of apply a bit of Eat That Frog. But I think I mentioned it before. I pick my 3 most important tasks of the day and I write them on a whiteboard. and I get through them one by one and I tick them off. And then if I happen to do more than 3 important tasks, then that's just a bonus. So I keep it to 3 because that seems manageable and I feel like I've achieved something at the end of the day. And I like having the whiteboard. And the whiteboard also serves as a focus tool for me, because on one half I have my tasks, and on the other half, if I'm focusing on one task in particular and something pops into my head to try and pull me off task, I just write that thing on the board to get it out of my head. So in some respects, that's a bit of GTD as well, because that's parking it in a trusted place, isn't it?
Well,
so that's my approach.
You actually wrote an ebook on some, basically productivity 101, which we're going to be sharing with people as well. They can download.
Yeah.
So I think you're one of those that's like a mashup. A very interesting question here from Vaughn, who says, what about tasks that would span a whole day or even several days? That's what happens to me. I make that, I don't know how you tackle this, but that might be for me the most important task of the day. And I might even approach that in a don't break the chain, sort of from a don't break the chain perspective. I don't know if that answers that, but that's what I predominantly do. I have tasks that span numbers of days, and I don't finish it today. It's going to be a project, a massive project. Sorry, Martine, yeah.
I was going to ask you how you use don't break the chain in a productivity sense, because actually I've always thought of don't break the chain as a habit tracking. I mean, it might be a good idea if you explain what don't break the chain is, but it sounds like you're using it in quite an interesting way there.
Okay, let me take a look at don't break the chain. I'm going to jump to of those. Yeah, let's take a look at it right now. Don't break the chain. Martine, do you remember the story about Jerry Seinfeld?
Yes, I remember.
Don't break the chain thing.
Yeah, he wanted to improve his craft, and because he's a comedian, he wanted to be as funny as possible. So what he tried to do was write a new joke every day. Is that right?
Yeah. I think I think there's different variations of it, but a reporter came to him and said, how come is it that you're so prolific, like the stuff that you come up with your jokes? And he said, like you said, I write every day. And they're like, how do you motivate yourself to write every day? He says, well, I have this big fat calendar, a physical calendar, and I have this big red marker. And every single day I do write something. I pop in an X, a big red X. And then I do the same thing tomorrow. And before long, you've got this little row, if you can visualize this, a row of red X's. After 7 days, you're like, wow, I'm pretty much, I'm doing this. I feel good. And after a week or two, once you see you've got a whole bunch of red X's racked up and you're tempted to not write something today, whatever it is that you're going to use this technique with, you're like, oh, wow, I've done like 14 days and I haven't broken the chain. If I don't do this today, I'm going to break the chain. So it's very much a visual motivation of actually physically marking it off. I do it in WorkFlowy. And the whole visual thing of actually having a physical visual chain before you and not wanting to make it. And so I've done this, and it's actually the simplest of hacks. Anybody can understand it. And that's the sum total of what this hack is all about. That's the whole explanation, but it is a powerful hack. And your question to me about how I use it, I've used it for many things, big and small. Floss your teeth. So flossing your teeth might take 2 minutes, but I've actually before to create a habit. How long is it that they say that you should do something before it actually becomes a habit?
Oh, I'm not sure. It's probably like a month or something, surely. I'm not entirely sure.
Because I've generally, with these very small little things, I've done it for a period of 90 days, and I've policed myself to make sure that I do it unbroken, don't break the chain for 90 days. So that's something small. It's not super important, but I have done it with creating databases. I've done it when I wrote my book on WorkFlowy. There was a don't break the chain effort for, actually it went up to about 120 days or more, 4 months.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so I worked on this every single day. Some days I wrote a little, some days I wrote a lot. But it was such a good feeling to look at my my list I had in WorkFlowy and see that I had an unbroken chain of working on this every single day. And that therein lies the productivity. And it's amazing, the consistency. Because if you do a little bit every day over a period of 4 months, you're going to end up with a lot over 4 months. So some days I did a lot, some days I did a little, but in the end, it was super productive. Does that answer the question?
It's a great strategy for a massive project like writing a book. Absolutely fantastic, because, you know, writing a book is such a huge task that the idea of getting through it is enormous. And I think the rewards of the little cross on the chart are huge. How do you do it in WorkFlowy, though? I can't imagine the visual is as exciting as if you had a big poster stuck on your wall.
No, it isn't actually, but I test everything out I can in WorkFlowy. What I would do is just a flat list month by month. So January, I'd have the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and I might have what I worked on that day or how many words I wrote next to it. And then I would cross it out. I would complete it in WorkFlowy, which would be like Control Enter. So there's like it's struck through.
Yeah.
And so I'd visually be able to see what was struck through and what wasn't.
Cool. And so there is a visual.
You can also use, and then there's also with a lot of the hacking that we've done and some stuff I've blogged about, where you use colored tags. I don't know if you've ever seen me use colored tags. So I might have a blue tag for a WorkFlowy book I was writing, and every single day I have a blue tag. And if I ever had to break the chain, I'd put a black tag or nothing, and it'd be more visual. So that can be done in WorkFlowy, but I think it's more fun to do it on a big fat calendar.
Yes, definitely. Cool.
All right. So what else can you think of? We don't necessarily have to do this in order. Eat that frog, GTD contexts. Do you know anything about that, Martine? GTD contexts?
The main sort of aspect of GTD that I use is just having an inbox, having a trusted place to park absolutely all of my to-dos. So I don't use contexts, but what I understand contexts to be is that you would tag your jobs relating to where you physically were in order to do them. So if you had a load of jobs that needed to be done sat at your computer, or a load of jobs that had to be done while you were in the car or something like that, they would be the contexts. You would kind of batch your tasks together. So when you're sat at your computer, you do all of those tasks. Is that right?
Exactly. I've got a little list in front of me of some examples, and that's in the resources list I'm going to share with people. A lot of this is hinged on, a big part of it is places where you are. So if you're at the office, and what you can do, I've seen Bob Elliott doing this. I've seen Robites doing this. I think I've had a peek into a number of people's lists with their tags. And I know that a lot of people use this GTD method. So you can have an office tag and have a little tag index. And whenever you're in your office, you hit the office tag, and all of your tasks throughout your WorkFlowy account that have an office tag will pop up. And you can say, now I'm in my office, let me do these set of associated tasks. Other places could be at home or the supermarket. It could also be activities, like if you're sitting at your computer. This is more specific. If you've decided now it's time to make some phone calls, so a phone tag, or an email tag, or reading, or something like that. Schedule, it could also be schedule. I think this is part of it. It could be now, next, soon, later, someday. So there's a lot of incarnations of these GTD contexts. It could be physical, or it could be a little bit more abstract as like time. And then some miscellaneous stuff like delegate, maybe, waiting. So the GTD contexts, that's not an exhaustive explanation, but WorkFlowy is particularly good for this. It doesn't require, and the great thing about this is it doesn't require a lot of planning. You just simply start tagging tasks with whatever context you have in mind. So it's an easy one to initiate. You don't have to set up a big system.
Can I just chip in? Rand has mentioned as one particular context approach you could use energy levels, high, low, medium, etc. Now, I think that's actually really interesting, because if you know your energy levels throughout the day, for example, I'm much more energetic first thing in the morning, you can plan your tasks accordingly. And I read a productivity book recently. I can't remember who it was by, but it was called How to Be a Productivity Ninja, which I think is a great name for a book. And it was very focused on that idea of knowing when your energy levels were at their best and scheduling your work accordingly. So Rand, thank you for that comment.
I sort of might do the high level energy stuff by accident if I'm looking at Eat That Frog,
Yes.
the important task, do it first in the morning.
Yes.
Generally, my energy levels are a little bit higher in the morning. Some people's aren't. They're night owls, so they might do their knowledge work and other high energy things where you need creativity later in the evening. There's an interesting thing which I just want to breeze over quickly. Wasim says, Frank, any discussion on the 2-minute rule, which is the GTD thing?
I love this.
That if a task takes, and it'll be nice to see your perspective on this too. If something takes less than 2 minutes to do, don't write it down anywhere, just do it. Do you follow that rule?
I do. I follow it big time. And the place that I tend to follow it is my inbox, my email inbox. So I'm a big advocate of inbox zero. And I spend time sorting my emails into, I have 3 folders. I have archive, waiting, and reply. And I apply the 2-minute rule to emails. So if it's going to take 2 minutes to deal with it, I'll just deal with it straight away, because it's going to take me 2 minutes to kind of file it and decide what to do with it and that sort of thing. So I apply it in my inbox. I don't know if I apply it anywhere else in my life, but certainly with email.
Do you constantly get email notifications?
You
got mail.
I turn my email system off on a regular basis, and I open it up when I'm ready to start dealing with emails. I can't deal with notifications.
I'm a little guilty of trying to deal with emails as they come in, and that's really distracting. I know in my heart of hearts I should set aside a block of time to do that. I've done it once or twice, and it just feels right, but it's so difficult to get into that. And that's the thing with the 2-minute rule. What happens if you have a whole bunch of tasks that you can do in less than 2 minutes bombarding you one after the other? It eventually takes up 15, 20, 30 minutes of your time. So I think maybe within reason. Otherwise, there's got to be a point where you sort of turn off the flow of these little distractions coming in, even if they are teeny tiny tasks, and push them aside for later. And somebody said, let's talk about the Pomodoro technique.
I love that.
I'd like to touch on in a little bit. I'd just like to knock through 1 or 2 more of these productivity methods. So we've done the Eisenhower matrix, the 1-3-5, Eat That Frog, GTD contexts, and scheduling. I sort of go in between the Eisenhower matrix, and some days, if I have a very loosely scheduled day, if that makes sense, and then on other days where I have a whole bunch of things that need to be done at certain times, I decide to just schedule everything and not just go on what I'm feeling at the moment. Do you do that, Martine? Do you schedule stuff a lot?
Yeah, I do.
Like your whole day?
Yes, I schedule a lot, and I use my Google Calendar for that predominantly. I have seen people scheduling in Pomodoros, which is quite interesting. It's not something I've done, but yeah, my day is pretty scheduled.
Okay. By the way, guys, I've got a template for you. I think in the WorkFlowy blog as well, I dealt with what I call the Kanban schedule. It's not a calendar. It's just a list of schedules, like 7 to 8 a.m., 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And it's the simplest thing. I don't think it really needs an explanation, but I've got a template for that, what I call the Kanban schedule, where you can shuffle and move tasks around easily. I've got that in the resource list that I'm going to share at the end of this. Okay, so that's the scheduling part. And we've looked at don't break the chain. Pomodoro technique. So let's talk about the Pomodoro technique. It's basically time boxing. It's simple. You can keep it simple, or you can go into the whole analytics side of it. Let's keep it simple today. It's basically time boxing, where you actually decide whether you want to work in blocks of time of 40 minutes, 1 hour. But the typical Pomodoro is about 25 minutes. And then you have a 5-minute break. Do you know the name or the reason for Pomodoro?
It's based on cooking timers, isn't it? So the guy who invented it, he used a tomato-shaped cooking timer to time out his 25 minutes focus work and his 5-minute break. And I think Pomodoro must mean tomato. Is that right?
Exactly. I think it's tomato in Italian.
Ah, okay. Beautiful language, Pomodoro.
And the Pomodoro timers out there, like for Android and iPhone, and there's a whole bunch of apps out there that will help you to break your workflow down. I use this sometimes, and sometimes I don't. If I'm teaching an English class, it doesn't make sense to time my 1-hour English class in blocks of 30 minutes. I just do it. But
I'm using an app. I'm using an app called Be Focused for iOS. So that's quite a good Pomodoro timer. Be Focused.
Is that the music app thing, or is that
no that's a Pomodoro timer?
Okay, Be Focused. So I generally work in blocks. If I'm doing knowledge work, very often I'll work in blocks of 25 minutes with a 5-minute break. Work for 25 minutes, a 5-minute break, do some jumping, some push-ups, some skipping, go grab a cup of tea. And supposedly, and I can testify to this, is that it makes you more productive, even though you're taking small little breaks, because you're able to refresh your mind every so often. But more than that, what I find amazing about work blocks of time, because I can actually go and I can focus for hours upon end. But the most helpful thing I got from the Pomodoro technique is that forcing yourself to take small periodic breaks. When you come back from your break, you analyze just quickly what you did in the last 30 minutes. Am I going in the right direction? Am I wasting my time? And often I find I should change course a bit and focus on something else. Maybe I've been hitting my head against a brick wall, focusing on something too long, and I'll come back to it later. And with those, obliging myself to stop and pause, I am able to go off in a more productive direction, if that makes sense. So I find that is... And then the other thing about focus, can you tell me anything about the Pomodoro technique that helps you to focus, like what one of the little rules are?
Yes. Do you know what? I'll tell you something that's really useful for me with the Pomodoro technique is it stops me being distracted by social media. So often my work is computer-based, and if I work for 25 minutes flat and then I have a 5-minute social media break, it stops me getting distracted during the 25 minutes. I had been using an internet blocker app called Freedom to stop me going online and looking at Facebook or whatever. But actually Pomodoro has sorted that out for me, no problem at all. And having the app going and a little alarm when I need to have my break is just absolutely spot on. So I get a lot out of it.
When the alarm goes off, do you actually stop it, or do you just work a little bit more?
Sometimes I work a little bit more, but most of the time I'm pretty good. So yeah, it's a good tool for me. Talking about focus, Louisa has mentioned another app or web-based product called Focus at Will, which is a music service that I use as well. And it's focus music, and you can just have it playing in your browser or on your mobile device. And it's a variety of different types of music to suit the mood you're in and the type of focus you want. So anything from the soundtrack of a busy cafe to something, a little bit more sort of like you're in a spa or something like that. And that really helps me focus because I don't like silence.
You know what? I did try it out at your suggestion. I got a 2-week free trial, I think. And I thought I would enjoy the natural sounds like waterfalls and stuff a lot better, but I actually enjoyed the classical music a lot better, like the Beethoven and that was really great. Very intense.
Yes. Yeah. Intense focus.
You can choose the intensity level, and then you've got these whole symphonies, and it just energizing. It's kind of weird. I was a little bit skeptical, but it seems that classical music does it for me.
Yeah. I, on the other hand, like the cafe. I like the background noise of the cafe. That really works for me. I can't listen to the waterfall because it makes me want to run to the bathroom every 10 minutes. So the waterfall is not for me at all.
Or the waves. I think they've got the waves too. That's interesting that the background noise of a restaurant would actually work. I'm wondering why that is. I haven't tried it.
I think it's just like white noise, you know, it's just because you can't hear any of the discussions going on. It's just sort of buzz. And it's like a cafe.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that you've got to actually experience to understand if it does work for you. So Martine, I didn't...
Oh, you've just frozen on me, Frank. What was that? Okay, Frank's stream has frozen a little bit, but I've got a funny feeling he might have been going to say, Martin, I didn't